Well, Roy, you had a long trip across country in a car.
Yeah, I got the old Dodge that I went to California in 1930, and boy, it was hungry out in those days. It took us 2 weeks. We burnt the bearings out twice going out there, and had to go into a junkyard and get some old bearings and replace them. Anyway, we finally got there in June.
Was this your family?
It was me and my mother, my father, and my younger sister, and my mother's sister. There were 5 of us. And we had quite a time getting out there. But anyway, we got there in June and left in the fall. And I went back to Ohio. And I stayed there about 2 weeks, and I says, Pop, I've had it. And I headed back to California. I hitchhiked back, and I've been back there ever since. Of course, everybody that came through those 30s knows how rough it was to get a job, and it was almost impossible. I had a job driving a sand and gravel truck, the first job in California, but the fellow that had the trucks lost the trucks during the Depression, and of course my job went with it. And the next summer I went up north and picked peaches where John Steinbeck wrote The Grapes of Wrath. I stayed in one of those camps and picked peaches, and then the following year I couldn't find a job. That fall after the peach picking was over, I went back down into Los Angeles area, and there was a radio station out in Inglewood, California, that had a program every Saturday night called the Midnight Frolic. And anybody could get on, and it was on from 12 at midnight until 6 in the morning. And so my cousin and I went up there. We played mandolin, guitar, and bass, and I yodeled and sang. And
well, now, were you a singer before you came out there? Had you done anything like
just what we did to entertain ourselves. I called square dances on the farm at home just for our entertainment on Saturday nights, and sang just with for our own entertainment. You know, it was like families do, our sisters. I had 3 sisters, and we all sang together. And so about 3 or 4 days after I was on this program, a fellow called me and invited me to come over and see his group. He's called the Rocky Mountaineers. So I joined the Rocky Mountaineers, and they were all musicians and no singers. And I sang for a while, and we ran an ad in the paper, and Bob Nolan answered the ad. And Bob and I sang duets for a while, and we ran another ad, and Tim Spencer answered. And so that became our pioneer trio, we called ourselves. And then
this was the beginning of the Sons of the Pioneers.
That's right. This was in 1933. And so a fellow came along from Texas and wanted us to make a barnstorming trip down through New Mexico, Arizona, and Texas. So he took the 3 of us, and we added 2 other fellas, and we barnstormed down through there. And boy, it got hungry out. We eat all the jackrabbits that were up around Roswell, New Mexico, and some of those places. And we got back, got over into Lubbock, and raked up enough money to get back to California. And we started on a KNX, a CBS outlet in Los Angeles at that time, with Peter Potter. And he had a program called the Hollywood Barn Dance, and we went on that and worked hard and got it going real good. And
one thing about them, let me ask you on the Sons of the Pioneers, were they in the 30s what they became later on, the classic Western group?
Yes, because between 1933, after we got back, and we were on a group called the Texas Outlaws, and when the last roundup came out in 1934, we worked really hard on that, our trio, and we started getting some write-ups in the newspaper, and the management of the station evidently read the write-ups, and they listened to us, I suppose, and they pulled the 3 of us off of the Jack and East Texas Outlaws and put us on the staff, and we added Hugh and Carl Farr, the fiddle and guitar player, and that was our nucleus of our first Sons of the Pioneers. And that's when we made all those standard radio records, transcriptions. We did about 400 numbers, all on transcriptions, and that's the basis of the Sons of the Pioneers. And they're still playing some of those things.
Oh, having been in radio a while, they certainly are. Of the original group.
That was me and Bob and Tim and Hugh and Carl. That's the original 5. And then, of course, I had left the Sons of the Pioneers and started starring in pictures. In 1937, I left them and signed up at Republic, and I made my first picture in the 38. And later on, the Sons of the Pioneers came with me, and they did, I guess they did about 30 or 40 of our pictures as a group of singers, you know, and they worked as the posse, running our ranch, you know, and stuff like that.
I was going to say the ranch hands.
That's right. Yeah.